All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how we do it here. We dig into some of the most interesting stories and try to, really get to the bottom of things and figure out what's going on in the world. And today we're looking at a really fascinating collection of headlines from March 5th, 2025.
Yeah, I mean, we've got everything from political maneuvering to space exploration, even some economic head scratchers in here. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. It is. So let's just dive right in, shall we? First up, we've got this story about a lawmaker who wants to put Donald Trump's face on the $100 bill.
Hmm.
Which, like, on the surface, that's a pretty bold move, right? But
Yeah.
then you realize there's actually a law that prevents living people from being on U.S. currency.
Right, exactly. And it's not just some random rule either. It's a tradition that goes way back. When you think about the people who are on our money, Washington, Lincoln, Franklin, they're all figures who represent certain ideals about America, values that we've historically held dear.
So putting a living person on there, that's like a huge statement.
Yeah, it would be a major break from tradition, and it really makes you wonder what kind of precedent it would set for the future?
Absolutely. All right, well, let's shift gears a bit from money to space because we've got this back and forth going on between Elon Musk and astronaut Sunita Williams.
Oh, yeah, this one's interesting.
So Musk is saying it's time to retire the International Space Station sooner than planned, but Williams, who's just finishing up 9 months on the ISS, she's strongly disagreeing with him.
Well, you got to remember Musk is all about pushing the boundaries, right? He's probably thinking at the cost of maintaining the ISS and, seeing it as maybe a distraction from even bigger goals like a Mars mission.
But Williams, she's been up
Yeah.
there. She knows firsthand the value of the research that's happening on the station.
Exactly. I mean, the ISS has been responsible for so many scientific breakthroughs, from studying the effects of microgravity on the human body to experiments that just couldn't be done anywhere else on Earth. It's not just about being in space, it's about advancing our understanding of science and technology.
All right, and then there's the whole aspect of international collaboration.
Hmm.
The ISS is a symbol of different nations coming together to achieve a common goal.
Exactly.
Okay, well let's come back down to earth for a minute and talk about something a little less glamorous.
Yeah.
The IRS is potentially facing massive staff cuts,
Oh, yeah, I saw that potentially losing half its workforce.
which is kind of terrifying when you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about the agency responsible for collecting taxes, the lifeblood of any government.
Right, and this is part of the Trump administration's efforts to downsize government operations being led by Elon Musk, now the head of the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency.
So, efficiency is a good thing in theory,
Yeah.
but what are the potential consequences of shrinking the IRS that drastically?
Well, for starters, it could become much harder to enforce tax laws effectively, which could lead to more tax evasion, less revenue for the government, and that could ultimately impact all sorts of things, from infrastructure projects to social programs.
And for everyday people, what could this mean?
Well, it could mean longer processing times for tax returns, more errors, maybe even an increase in audits.
Not exactly what people want to hear.
No, not at all.
All right, well, shifting gears again to a completely different kind of tension, the U.S. has stopped sharing intelligence with Ukraine, and they're even barring allies from passing along U.S.-generated intel.
Wow.
This comes after President Trump halted military aid to Ukraine following a clash with President Zelensky.
That's a pretty big deal. I mean, cutting off intelligence, that sends a really strong message to both Ukraine and to our allies. It's basically saying we're not going to have your back.
Right, and that could have serious consequences for the balance of power in the region.
Absolutely. Ukraine could be left much more vulnerable without that crucial intelligence.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about trade. Because the U.S. is pushing India to get rid of its tariffs on imported cars, which can be as high as 110%.
Oof, that's steep.
Yeah, and India is not really budging on this. Both Elon Musk and President Trump have spoken out against these high tariffs. But, tariffs are a complex issue.
They're a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they can protect domestic industries, but on the other hand, they can also lead to higher prices for consumers.
So what happens if a deal isn't reached?
If India doesn't lower its tariffs, American car manufacturers are going to have a really tough time entering the Indian market.
But if they do give in, their domestic auto industry could suffer.
Exactly. It's a high-stakes negotiation with potential winners and losers on both sides, and it really highlights the challenges of global trade in our interconnected world.
Well, that was a lot to take in. We covered everything from money to space, from government agencies to international relations, and from trade wars to, the future of our planet.
Yeah, it's amazing how all these different stories connect and paint a picture of the forces that are shaping our world right now.
It is. And it makes you wonder what the long-term impact of these decisions will be, you know? So as you go about your day, think about these stories. What resonates with you? What questions do they raise about the kind of future we're creating? These are the things that are going to define our world. So it's important to pay attention and to think critically about what's happening around us.
Absolutely well said.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.